George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture.
Clearly a man who's never read a history book. Donald Trump doubling down on white supremacy. His stance is not stopping the efforts to remove Confederate statues all over the country. Just yesterday, the Lexington, Kentucky City Council took steps to remove 2 statues sitting near the courthouse. Right now, there are 718 monuments and statues across the U.S. Virginia has the most at 96, followed by North Carolina and Georgia with 90 each. Since Dylan Roof massacred 9 people and black folks in Charleston, South Carolina in 2015, only 9 cities have removed or in the process of removing their statues. More than 60 publicly funded symbols have been removed or renamed since the mass shooting. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper penned an article on the website medium.com calling for removing all Confederate statues from state government property. His letter comes after college students in Durham, North Carolina pulled down a Confederate statue. Durham County deputies arrested Takia Thompson after she wrapped a rope around the statue to help protesters pull it down. Authorities are planning to arrest more protesters involved in removing the statue. Overnight, literally 5 hours ago, the city of Baltimore removed at least 2 Confederate statues. Republican Maryland Governor Larry Hogan is demanding the Roger Taney statue be removed from the State House in Annapolis, Maryland. Taney was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court who wrote the dreadful Dred Scott decision allowing slave owners to bring slaves into Western territories. In a statement, Governor Hogan said, quote, "While we cannot hide from our history, nor should we, the time has come to make clear the difference between properly acknowledging our past and glorifying the darkest chapters of our history. I believe removing the Justice Robert B. Taney statue from the State House grounds is the right thing to do." There are also plans to remove, again, as I said, statues in Baltimore. Before ordering the removal of 4 Confederate statues in New Orleans, Mayor Mitch Landrieu gave a passionate speech about why this issue is about more than statues.
These statues are not just stone and metal. They're not just innocent remembrances of a benign history. These monuments celebrate a fictional sanitized Confederacy, ignoring the death, ignoring the enslavement, ignoring the terror that it actually stood for. And after the Civil War, these monuments were part of that terrorism, as much as burning a cross on someone's lawn. They were erected purposefully to send a strong message to all who walked in the shadows about who was still in charge in this city.
This sentiment didn't sit well with former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich. He's accusing mayors of pandering to black folks by removing the Confederate statues.
Mayors in towns that are largely black are going to pander to their audience. They're going to go out and prove they're popular by doing something that meets the current demagogic needs. But that's everything the Founding Fathers worried about.
Yes, the same Founding Fathers who were slave owners, the same Founding Fathers who did not include black folks in the Constitution, the same Founding Fathers who declared 3/5 of American. Those are the same Founding Fathers, Newt Gingrich. Go sit the hell down. Lexington Mayor Jim Gray joins me now via FaceTime to discuss his decision to remove the statues. Mayor Gray, when you listen to the Newt Gingriches of the world, he basically is saying that folks like you are just trying to appease black folks.
Yeah, I heard him. I was just shaking my head, Roland. You know, when you look at this issue, let me tell you a little bit about our story here. These statues, the 2 that we're looking at today, that we're asking to be relocated, the 2, they're standing on sacred ground. It was once the Cheapside auction block. It was one of the largest auction blocks and sites in the South. Now, it's just not right that these 2 men that fought to preserve slavery are still standing on the same ground that men and women and children were auctioned into slavery. That was my decision. That just wasn't right. And, you know, I've been asked, you know, well, why did you do it now? And why did you announce it on Saturday? Well, we were already planning to do it. I was planning to put it before the city council yesterday, which is what I did. And when the events emerged in Charlottesville, it just reinforced my decision that this is the right thing to do.
And when you listen to 45 yesterday, I'm sorry, Mayor, I cannot call this man president. When you listen to him say, well, you know, what's next? It is as if he's oblivious to the fact that these monuments were not erected after the Civil War. They were erected more than 2 generations later by white racists, the Redeemers on the Democratic side, the Lily White movement on the Republican side, because they wanted to change history. He says we're changing history. No, we're telling the actual truth.
Yeah, you're telling, and that's what we're saying here. Let's tell the actual truth. You know, if we'd actually, you know, there is the argument, you know, let's learn from history. But if we'd learned from history, then these statues would have been relocated and taken away from the center of our city and the center of our justice system a long time ago, if we'd learned from history.
And look, Condoleezza Rice had given a comment a couple of years ago saying, well, this is sanitizing history. No, but it's not. First, again, we know exactly when these statues were erected. We know for a fact that the Confederate flag, the rebel flag, was General Lee told his troops to furl that flag and store it in attics because it was a sign of treason. That flag had not been in the American public for almost 3 generations. It wasn't until the Democrats in 1948 endorsed a civil rights plank in their platform when the Dixiecrats in Mississippi nominated Strom Thurmond to be the presidential candidate, when they chose that flag as their symbol. Georgia did not put that on the state flag until 1956, 2 years after Brown Board of Education. We know for a fact that schoolhouses across the country were renamed after Confederate heroes after Brown v. Board of Education. These moves were made to oppose civil rights, to oppose integration, to oppose desegregation, to oppose black people.
Well, you're actually telling the history right now, and in many respects, don't you think that that's what this episode is doing, that's what this chapter is doing, is telling and correcting history today?
Well, Mayor Gray, I thank you for your leadership, and I also hope other mayors follow your lead, and hopefully your state senator, Mitch McConnell, and Rand Paul will stand with you on this and not run from this issue.
I appreciate you having me on the show, Roland. Thank you.
Mayor, thanks a lot.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh, my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.